History lesson.
That was brilliant. Just brilliant. Need history.
I'm going to start with this. The function of truth is to bring light to the hidden facts, to set them in relation with each other, and make a picture of reality on which humans can act. If humans' activities are based on their beliefs, and they can believe lies, then their actions can be based on lies. Truth transforms humans only when we submit to it. Humans who seek truth cannot resist the need to transform. At some point, everyone will be confronted with the powerful influence of truth. Change in response to truth can occur immediately or over a long and often painful period. Here's a quote from Walter Lippmann, an American writer. It goes like this: "There can be no liberty for a community which lacks the means to detect lies." I am excited about being here. I really appreciate the invitation that was extended to me by Sikivu and the Black Skeptics of Los Angeles. So I had a few moments of maybe I shouldn't go, but that lasted a few moments. So, but I am really glad to be here. I also like to extend appreciation to Pastor Seth and the Zion Hill Baptist Church for having this gathering. The dialogue opportunity is much needed throughout this country. I would love to have this opportunity to sit with clergymen and churches in Houston. The opportunity to be able to exchange these ideas is valuable. I also like to take the opportunity to extend the appreciation to my best friend Joe Sawyer. Stand, Joe. Joe flew in from San Francisco to spend this time with me. I guess he said, "Well, Don, if you can come from Houston, I can come down the coast." So, but I really appreciate it. He's my road dog, you know. Yeah. So anyway, and then also friend Valerie Riches is here. She lives here in LA. So glad to see Valerie. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to come and share my story, my message, my transition. And before I get into that, I'm going to just spend a couple moments on the Day of Solidarity, because this is another opportunity that can expand the message of secularism, particularly in the Black community. The Day of Solidarity for Black non-believers is an annual event that I basically came up with last year about this time. And I was thinking through Black history, and it was coming up on Black History Month. And I was pondering ways in which we could gather non-believers, Black non-believers, and focus on non-believers historically that were Black, from a historical standpoint. And the other thing that became more prevalent in my thought process was I was realizing that there are a lot of Black secularists, Black non-believers, and there's a lot of people speaking out on the internet, YouTube, emailing one another, blogging. But when you go out in the community to try to find them, they're nowhere to be found. And I live in a large city, and when I was making my transition, I was struggling. I needed to find someone, and I couldn't. I needed to share the story with someone that understood, and I couldn't find anyone. So the whole intent of the Day of Solidarity is to provide that gathering in cities all across the country where black non-believers can just come together for that particular day and extend fellowship and concern and interest and allow our small community now to just come together and feel comfort in sharing with one another. And so at this particular point, we have, it's about 12 cities that have some plans underway to celebrate on February 26th. LA, Houston, Dallas, New York, Indianapolis, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Atlanta, Orlando, Florida, and I got word about someone in West Palm Beach, Florida. So apparently this message is catching on. So I'm really excited about it, and I think it really can make a difference within the secular black non-believers community, just from the solidarity, the fellowship standpoint. And so for those of you that don't know anything about it, we have a Facebook page, we have an email address where you can send to find information about it. And we are just encouraging this to be another way in which we encourage each other to be supportive of one another and also to promote activism within the community. So the Day of Solidarity on the Day of Solidarity for Black non-believers, February 26th, fourth Sunday in February. And hopefully that'll happen every year until religion is no longer dominant in the black community. Now, how long is that going to be? I don't know. We'll see. But that's the point of the celebration. It's a pretty interesting journey that I've made. I grew up in Alabama, a little small town, 8,000 people, Fayette, Alabama, F-A-Y-E-T-T-E. Little town about 40 miles north of Tuscaloosa, town where I had all the tornadoes in the spring last year. I graduated from high school in 1970. From there, I went to college at Tennessee State University. Electrical engineering degree in 1975. Moved to Houston right out of college. Job with Honeywell. And that's where I started my engineering career. Over the next few years, I worked for various companies, basically doing the same type of engineering, designing air conditioning systems. And then in 2002, I started my own engineering firm. And so last week I celebrated my 10th year being in business. And so the reason why that's relevant is because I realized that when I made the move to start my own business, I was allowing myself some freedom that I did not know existed. And so my life started to change at that moment. So that's January 2002. So I haven't been the same since in terms of my personal growth, and obviously making the decision to leave religion was a major step. So as I try to walk you through this to help you understand how that transpired, because since then I've met quite a few black people that have done this. So, but it's still a rarity. And from the standpoint of, I'm 59, so I did it pretty late, per se. So I was ingrained in my Christianity, my religion. Grew up, first I was a Baptist, then I joined the Methodist Church, and then I eventually moved back to Baptist. And then before I made my transition away from religion in 2006, I had joined a church that was predominantly a white church, and it was a kind of a Jews for Jesus type church. And so as I share with you, there's a lot of things that took place within this short period of time. And in 2003, as I try to give you a little bit about how this happened, I had always been, as I was involved in my churches, I've always been an active member. doing things, singing the choir, usher, being involved in brotherhood meetings, doing evangelism, and many activities that the church required, basically, I would participate because I felt that's what we were supposed to do. And I was taught that way when I was growing up. My parents were active in church. So if you're going to be part of something, do it. Be visible. Make your mark on it. So that's the way I was at church. So in 2003, even up until this particular time, I had always been somewhat, a little bit disappointed in the behavior of pastors and preachers. And I was always disturbed when I would see or hear about them doing things that was inappropriate. And I always was concerned about, how do they do this? Why do they do that? And they're not remorseful. They do what they want to do, and then the members sit there and say, well, he's just a man. God will deal with him in his own way. So, but here you got pastors stealing money. You got pastors abusing women. But as a member, you don't think you should hold him accountable? That bothered me. So, up until 2006, I had been a member of 7 different churches. In 2003, when I left a mega church in Houston. Well, when I made that decision to leave that church, my journey to atheism basically started. Now, it wasn't because I left that church converted me to atheism. When I left the church in 2003, that particular church, it started me on a different journey. And that journey was because it was something that the pastor did that I couldn't handle as a Christian. And that was, he got caught in a homosexual scandal. And it was national news because it's a big church in Houston. So, we had a, pardon?
It says Ratcliffe, right?
Right. I would expect you to know that. Right.
I didn't hear.
Right.
No, that's just the pastor.
That's the pastor
we're talking about.
Okay. So, church had a big meeting about it because we was trying to figure out what are we going to do about this. Huge meeting. I mean, I hadn't seen that many people in the church before. But so we had to vote on this. One of the most significant things that took place during that meeting was this. People are giving their explanation as to why they think he should go or why he should leave. And one of the members stood up and explained why she thought that the pastor needed to leave. And so she read scriptures from the Bible. Well, there were echoes amongst the members that says, we don't want to hear that. We're in the church, God's place, His Son, Jesus Christ, and you don't want to hear the word? I was very startled, disappointed, and I started to realize, maybe this is not the place for me. Then we had to vote, and I voted that he should go because I was a deacon at that particular church. I wasn't a deacon at that time, but I had been a deacon at that particular church. And there were some other things that he had done that disappointed me to cause me to change my mind about wanting to be a deacon. And I won't reveal those tonight. But I realized that there were some things about this particular pastor that I didn't agree with anyway. And so for him to be blatant with this unacceptable behavior was unacceptable. So myself and my wife, we certainly voted that he should leave. But he won out in terms of being able to stay by a short margin. The membership voted for him to remain. So in the process, as we leaving the church after that meeting, I told my wife, we got to go. We're not coming back. So we left that church that night, never went back. And so the decision was made. I told my wife that we're gonna find a church, and we're gonna find a better place than this. And we're gonna make sure that the place that we go next time is gonna be a place that really teaches the word. And I don't care if they got a choir or not. They don't have to sing. I just want to know that they're teaching the word properly. Now, what was taking place is that I was being motivated and I was being driven to move myself into a different posture with Christianity and religion. And what was taking place is that I was determined to start understanding this religion. I made a point to start studying, self-study. I went to a Bible college. I bought all the translations of the different Bibles, different versions. Everything that was out there that we had seen or I had ever heard of, I bought it. Because I was going to make a comparison between this scripture, and that scripture, in terms of how those translations was being read. I bought commentaries. I bought encyclopedias. I bought atlases. So I had developed this commitment to a way where I never would have thought that would have happened. Now, over the next 2 years, and this is 04, over the next 2 years, I am a devoted, committed, just a studying fool. Up all times of night, reading, learning, understanding what this word says, how we're supposed to be living as a Christian, what we're supposed to be understanding from the Bible. And in fact, it got very intense. In fact, I had a couple of people to say, "Don, you being called, man. Being called to what? You being called to the ministry, brother." And it was like, I might be right. Because I started thinking, this has got to be God that's giving me clarity about the understanding of these scriptures. That's got to be God. So maybe I am supposed to preach. Well, I'm glad I didn't, but that didn't take place. I mean, that's based on my attitude right now. So the next year, I am this. I'm a devout Christian. I am listening to my Christian radio station every day. I got my morning devotion going. I'm seeing a different walk. I'm talking differently. I'm communicating with preachers differently. And it was all about a commitment to this religion and Christianity and the Bible. Now, what changed? Well, what changed is this. I kept studying. I kept reading. And what happened, I found some information about Paul. The Apostle Paul. And it pricked my curiosity about where did he come from?
That's right.
How did he become so dominant in the Christian religion? Why does he have so many writings in the Bible? How did Paul become an apostle? So now I'm studying this stuff, and I'm trying to understand, well, they quote Paul more than they do Jesus. So I studied Paul for over 6 months. And I started to understand, I don't respect Paul. Paul, nothing but an imposter. Self-appointed apostle, developed his own attitudes about Jesus, made up a lot of stuff about Jesus, never saw the man, and then don't tell you everything about him. Don't ever tell you where he's been on the cross or nothing like that. None of his writings refer to that. So he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's a major imposter. May not even existed. So here I am coming to this conclusion. Then I move to the next phase. Then I start seeing that, well, you know what? Maybe I should forget everything in the New Testament and just focus on the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Can you, and this is the good part here, can you tie it up in about the next 2-3 minutes? And then, because we want to be sure we have time for a little dialogue.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Now, what is happening here is that I'm moving into a very studious, scholarly perspective on my religion. Okay? So now I have a whole lot of questions. A lot of questions. These questions are not answered in the Bible. Then I get introduced to all the contradictions. And that's unacceptable.
How old are you at this time, sir?
This is
2006.
I mean, what year was it?
This was 05, 04, something like that.
I
Yes.
understand what the timeline.
So by this particular time, I'm already studying W.B. Du Bois. I'm studying Ingersoll. I'm studying Bertrand Russell. So I've gotten exposed to some different perspectives now. And then I read The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine.
Yes.
And that was it. That was the nail. That was what sealed it for me. I cried 2 nights after reading that, because he had exposed religion and Christianity to a way that no way I could have ever anticipated. And I was deeply hurt, because now my life stance, my whole concept about life was being shaken. But I saw it as truth. So when I see it as truth, I move on truth. I walked away from religion at that particular time, and that was September of 06. I haven't been back to church since. And in a place like this, other than a funeral or a wedding, I have no intentions of going back. So at that particular point, I moved to being an agnostic, because I wasn't quite sure about the God thing anymore. But over the next couple of years, I was safely comfortable in saying that I'm an atheist. So I'm an atheist humanist now. Atheism only means that I have no need or no belief in God. Humanism defines my concept in relationship with my fellow human beings. Okay, so now that's the position that I take. I move to that, and I'm comfortable with that. Thus, I had to write the book. So the book becomes my journey. It talks about those things, what influenced me, and it gives more pointed information about things that I did and how it happened. So that was 06. Pardon?
The name of your book.
The only prayer I'll ever pray.
I cannot hear.
The only prayer I'll ever pray. Let my people go.